All right. So we are mining the real. We're looking at the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on the chapter called With Various Devotees, which is chapter 33. The date, we're on page 647, but the date, I guess, is still the same one. Yep. It's still Sunday, October 26th, 1884. And I remember when I picked the book up to look at what we were reading today, I remember I'm really excited to read through this because a new idea popped into my head last week just as we'd read it. I think that this little parable, I guess that he's going to tell, or this little story, uh, it's a delight of a story, and I think that in a way it really gives a perfect description of the relationship between grace and works. To what extent is what we do important? What is the actual thing that moves us forward? So I'm going to start just a little bit on at the end of page 646 here to get to the beginning of a paragraph. And Ramakrishna is saying, he's teaching the whole group here. He's saying, to attain God, a person must have certain favorable conditions, right? There's certain aspects are that have to arise for us to know God, right? And he says they are the company of holy people, right? So people, the company of knowers, or the company of people who at least are on their way, building on their path, going forward. And incidentally, I it's curious because I know I've heard some folks having troubles, or not troubles, but this idea of like, well, how do I know which religion is true? And how do I know which one is right and which path is for me? And, the whole thing about that is that those questions only come up because we as people have been very ignorant toward the divine and have set up a situation that makes it look that way. Like there's only one true religion and that it's one of these five and that you better pick the right one. And then you have to be fully dedicated to that and going on and blah, 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 blah. But I really posit, I feel very confident in saying that the reason that it's not true, that we don't have to worry about it, is that there's one religion. There's only one religion. It's as old as time, and it's called life. And you don't get to choose it. You're thrown into it. And that life is a path, and that life is the only path to God, to the divine. Living life like this in a changing world where we're in the dark about our nature and about the powers around us and whatnot. But it's a place where our true nature comes out. Our human nature can express and come out, even if we're not ripe, even if we're not knowers, right? And so we learn a lot from this experience. And so, it is a matter of grace, and even the fact that you're hearing God's name, the fact that you're even opening scriptures, means that your time has come. That the divine has gotten you to a place now where the mind is getting ripe enough and the heart is getting pure enough to where we can actually start moving forward in a big way, as we've been moving forward for eons now. And so, there isn't a noun that you have to know that is the right noun. There is love, and there is wisdom, and there is being. And that is the divine nature of ourself and of the universe and of the divine, uh, which we may place outside of ourselves at time. And so it's always time for love, right? So if you're not sure where to start, you're not sure what path to take, you're not sure what set of dogmas and doctrines to adopt, don't adopt any of them. They come out of you during the search. They don't have to be there before it, right? You come out and you take love as your principle, you take wisdom as your staff, your moniker. You're right. You take your presence, your being, your calmness. You bring these to the table and go to work. We are well on our way. None of us are starting, or none of us are beyond starting. Let's put it that way, right? The starting, the beginners, we're all beginners up until like the last 10 feet of this 90-mile race, right? So we're all just beginning and all just trying to find our way forward. But life is the path, and you are on it, and you can't be on it. You can't get off of it. right? Thakur says you've been bitten by the serpent, by the cobra, and it's just a matter of time now. So it's just patience. Now it's just patiently being true to your practice, being responsible for yourself, working on keeping your mind pure, working on unselfish action toward others, and increasing our sense of love in ourselves. And we go forward with that. Will we be saved? Will we make it to heaven? Will we get our enlightenment? No knowing. And it's not the point, and it don't matter. Those are not the things that fulfill us. Those are not the things that will make us happy, right? The journey itself is the point. And in the journey, you can be in the presence of God anytime you desire. You just simply close your eyes, or you're taking in stuff from outside, and just be in that stillness. The divine kingdom is within you, right? Within this body mind. And, or at least the gate is in the body mind. And so we hold on to that and go forward, right? Don't wait until you make the right decision about this, that, or the other. Keep practicing love no matter what you've decided about any given topic anywhere, right? The details are not the point. The love is the point, and going forward is the point, and being full of faith is the point, and letting the truth of these teachings become your joy, become your confidence, become your strength, right? And go forward. So he says to attain God, certain favorable conditions, like the company of holy people, discernment. We come to know what we're discerning, that I'm not a body mind, that which is changing is not real, that I'm looking for that which does not change within myself. That's the big tool for discernment, for knowing what is real within ourselves. And the blessings of a real teacher, right? So having someone in the perfect condition, having someone who's enlightened, or someone who is at least advanced enough to be a good guide for you in the time, right? But even in that quest, knowing that there's only one guru, millions and billions of faces of guru, but only one guru, and that guru has taken responsibility to you as soon as you've handed that responsibility over to him or her or that, right? And so we go forward. He said, perhaps his elder brother takes the responsibility for the family. Maybe his wife has spiritual qualities and is very virtuous. Perhaps he's not married at all or entangled in worldly life. He succeeds when conditions like these are fulfilled, right? So you see how mother is kind of at work. She's bringing your whole life into a condition to make it possible for you to leap forward, for you to go forward. And until that desire, until that longing is there within you, your life stays crowded. It stays crowded with the things that you enjoy, the things you want to think about, the things you want to be a part of. And only when you start to quiet the mind, and only when you start to want something a little bit deeper, something that lasts. That would be nice. Have some happiness that lasts, right? Have some love that lasts. And when we start getting that notion, we start getting a little bit shifty with this world, just thinking, is this all? Is this really it? Do I just basically lay on the planet and figure out ways to enjoy myself for 90 years? Was that really the point of life? And so you start thinking like that, then mother slowly starts, lessening your responsibilities, and starts lessening the things that you can easily get involved in to distract you. She starts breaking down some of your illusions. She starts giving you a little bit of loss, you start realizing, ooh, then she starts aging your body a little bit. Then you start getting really nervous. You're like, oh, wow, this isn't forever. I'm mortal. This body is mortal. What does this mean, right? And all these things start happening, and then mother slowly ripens your nature, ripens you up, right? Gets you ready. So that's what he's saying, that for a person to come to their enlightenment, certain signs will show you that you're on your way. You'll have a teacher. You'll have a longing, right? You'll start discerning. You'll start preferring the company of thoughtful and wise people. right? So then he tells this funny story here, because before this started, the chapter, the paragraph before the paragraph I chose to start on, if I read that right now, which I will because it makes a very important point. He says, Mahimatron has just asked him, by what kind of work can a man realize God? You know, what kind of practices do I have to do? What kind of things do I have to do? And Ramakrishna, thank goodness, answers him. He says, it is not that God can be realized by this work and not by that work, right? It's not that some works will do it and some works won't do it. He says the vision of God depends on grace, right? So the vision of God comes from grace. That means we don't have any part in it except an acceptance, except for an opening up to that, right? So the vision of God depends on his grace. He says, but still a man must work a little with longing for God in his heart. If he has longing, he will receive the grace of God, right? So what he's saying, if you want it, you're going to get it. Don't worry. Don't let that become your concern, right? If you have longing, if you desire the beloved, he's going to reveal himself to you, right? Or herself in that sense. And so to give this relationship with what he just said between these works, you know, or tasks to get us to enlightenment versus God's grace. Because if we just say initially it's just God's grace, then none of us will get up out of the chair and do anything, right? We'll be like, okay, well, I'll just wait for that then. Right? And we suffer more because we're not living according to our nature. We don't know anything. We're just like, well, at some point, God will smile and pluck me out, you know? And so he's like, well, it's not really that way either. There is something you have to do, but it's not really something that's directly responsible for your enlightenment, right? But it's sort of this game, as it were, that the divine beloved has put together. And he's going to describe this game to us, which is quite funny here. He says, in a certain family, there's a man, and he was seriously ill. He was at the point of death. Someone said, here is a remedy. First, it must rain when the star Swati is in the ascendant. And then some of that rainwater has to collect in a human skull. And then a frog must come there, and a snake must chase the frog. And as the frog is about to be bitten by the snake, it must jump away, and the poison of the snake must drop into the skull. You must prepare a medicine from this poison and give it to the patient, and then he will live. The head of the family consulted the almanac about the star ascendant of Swati and set out at the right moment. With great longing of heart, he began to search for different ingredients, right? He prayed to God, O Lord, I shall succeed only if you bring together all the ingredients. And as he was roaming about, he actually saw a skull laying in the ground. Presently, there came a shower of rain. Then the man exclaimed, Oh, gracious Lord, I have got the rainwater under Swati and a skull. What is more, some of the rain has already fallen into that skull. Now be kind enough, O Lord, to bring together the other ingredients. He was reflecting with a yearning heart when he saw a poisonous snake approaching. His joy knew no bounds. He became so excited that he could feel the thumping of his own heart. Oh God, he prayed. Now the snake has come too. I have procured most of the ingredients. Oh, please be gracious, O Lord. Give me the remaining ones. No sooner did he pray thus than a frog hopped up. The snake pursued it, and as they came near the skull, the snake was about to bite the frog. The frog jumped over the skull, and the snake's poison fell into it. The man began to dance, clapping his hands for joy. So I say, one gets everything through yearning. All right? Do you get the story? Is that not just delightful? Yes, you have to work for it. You have to do the impossible. You have to go forward expecting something that's so utterly outrageous and unlikely to occur, but you have to ask for it. And you have to believe that it's going to happen. And you have to look it up in the almanac and find out when does the star in the ascendant. And then you actually have to go out your door. You have to have faith. Yes, I can do this, even though it's the most absurd arrangement of conditions and circumstances. Your faith grows with every bit of it, doesn't it? You walk out the door. It starts raining. Oh my God. Well, the first of the impossibles has happened. It's raining during the ascendant star of Swati, right? Oh my God, there's a skull. Oh my God. And the whole time he's praying, oh God, you gave me a skull. Imagine, first it's raining in the ascendant star. Excellent. Now he goes out. Oh my God, there's a skull. Wow, he got a skull. There's a snake. There's a frog. The whole thing happens in front of him. You can see how excited he is. You see how excited I am just by his story because I think it's marvelous. He gets so excited because the whole impossibility of it happens in front of him. And that's how it is, right? Yes, works are necessary. Why? Because you only do works when you want something, right? His longing had to be there. He had to find out when that star would be in the ascendant. Then he had to have enough faith to go and pursue it. He could have just sat down like I certainly would have. You know, if somebody had sat down and said, okay, yeah, we can do this. All you need is to get the star in the ascendant. When it's in the ascendant, it starts to rain. Then go out and find a human skull, right? And tip it upside down and get some of that rain in it. And then some frog is going to come and let that frog jump over that skull. And the snake is going to try and eat that frog, going to miss the frog. It's going to fall on the skull. Its teeth are going to get caught on the edge, and it's going to drip some of that poison into that collected rainwater, right? That's your medicine. Take that, you'll have enlightenment, you know, or in the story's case, you save the life of the person who's sick. But I just think it's hilarious because that whole process was only necessary for you to be there, for you to grow in your firm conviction that this is the one reality, right? You can know, I mean, just because when you're sitting there looking at that list of to-dos, any reasonable, sane, thinking person would just walk away and be like, oh God, forget it. How am I supposed to do that? How am I ever going to get any of that done? Right? But you go forward with faith. You're like, yes, I want this. Okay. All right. When is this star in the ascendant? Okay, it's on this date. All right. Now I have to go out. So you go out in the rain looking for a skull. Right? Oh my God, there's one. It has to be upside down so it catches some of this rainwater in it. Okay. Right? And then he sees the snake, and then she sees the frog, and all these things come together, right? But after all of that happens, and after you take that little medicine, and we'll just mix the story here into enlightenment, and you take a little sip of that and have your enlightenment. Now, looking at that situation, did that person get that medicine through grace or because of the works that he did for it? Right? Utterly not because of the works. But if he hadn't gone out in the rain, if he hadn't gone and found that skull, if he hadn't gone and, you know, done in faith all of the things, all of the absurdities of things that he had to do in order for that to happen, it wouldn't have happened. But because he had the faith and because he had the yearning and he saw that he had no choice, this is the only thing that life is for. This is the only point to being here. So you surrender, you go do it. You're like, this is absurd. There's no way I can do this. This is crazy. How's this ever going to all happen? But you go, and mother does the first thing, and then she does the second thing, and then she does the third thing. And by the third thing, you're getting it together inside. You're starting to realize, wow. That's really all you're going to say. You're just going to keep going, wow. Wow. Right? Because each one, the wow just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You're like, holy Toledo, right? That's our mother. That's our beloved, right? That's why we love him, because he's a nutcase, right? He's just like we are, just having a blast, just infinitely free, infinitely pure, and willing to give it all to us.
Excuse me, Swamiji. So what you're saying is faith, right? So don't question it. Don't try to analyze too much.
Well, you can analyze all you want. Just keep doing it. Right? If you analyze,
you'll start wondering what's all this.
Yeah, well, initially, if you don't start, then, and if you analyze before you start, then yes, you can analyze to strengthen your doubt and then not leave the house, not take a step forward, not try, because you get discouraged right away. Why? Because you're still thinking, I'm going to do this. And if you're thinking, I'm going to do it, and you're looking at the list of requirements, even forget the story. Even if I just come tell you and say, okay, you have to purify your mind and have no thoughts of me or mine, right? You have to control your sex drive. You have to control your hunger, control your body, right? You have to be able to silence your mind, right? It's the same thing. It's just that we're a lot more familiar with these requirements, so they don't make us feel like, oh, this is impossible. But it's impossible, isn't it? I mean, look at our practice. Even, I just look at me. I'm like, look at this monk. What kind of haggard, I mean, right, when we get to the end of this, there's going to be no doubt we're going to be dancing and laughing like crazy, but ain't no one of us going to be going like, oh, thank God I did that. Thank God I did managed. You didn't manage anything. You wanted freedom, and you stumbled forward believing that it could be yours, completely beyond any reasonable expectation. And because you didn't quit, and because you kept going, and because you were faithful, right? All of these things come together to build the saint that you are meant to be, right?
Yeah.
To give you that freedom, to give you that light that has always been yours, right? In that. And so, yes, you need to do something, but that something is only worthwhile if it's blessed by the divine, if it's touched by the grace of God, right? And so that's that longing inside. That's just you saying, God, I really, I haven't met you that I know of. I don't recognize you if I'm seeing you or if I have seen you. I said, but love is a beautiful thing. And pure love is an unheard of thing. And after all my days in this world so far, I think that I've seen that there's nothing really else out there. I really just want to lay with you by a tree in a meadow by a stream and talk about whatever together, and you just follow that dream inside. You follow that longing.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Swamiji.
In light of it. And Mother has made the promise so many times. I would promise it too, but my promises are worthless in that regard. But Mother promises and promises and promises, come to me. Take refuge in me. On me alone. No one else. Nothing else.
Right.
Come take refuge. Right? And you do it because it seems unlikely, but you do it. It seems unlikely, but you've got hope, right? That faith grows. And by the time you get to the frog jumping over the skull level, right? That's like level 5 spirituality. You're jumping around like a school kid because your faith has gotten so big, and you know that this is all just a joke for Mother to show her grace, to make impossible things happen, so that you learn to trust her, so that you learn to know the reality of divine love, of divine wisdom, of your own immortality. And so you play. And if you play sincerely, boy, the playing gets hilarious, right?
Right.
And we spend a lot of time laughing because we're just like, wow, that's amazing, right? That's amazing. No sooner did he pray thus than the frog hopped up. The snake pursued it. When they came to the skull, the snake was about to bite the frog. The frog jumped over the skull, and the snake's poison fell into the skull. The man began to dance and clap his hands for joy. So I say that one gets everything through yearning. Okay? He even pulled a pastoral on us even then. It's not through works. It's also not through grace. It's through your yearning. And Ramakrishna says that quite a few times, right? yearning, long for God, right? And really that longing again is uncovered in us through discernment. One, right, by not letting ourselves assume that we know everything, right? Letting ourselves sit here and think of wonder every now and then, like do your little finger thing, just to kind of keep yourself humble. Remember, gosh, I claim responsibility for this, but I can't tell you the first step in doing it, right? If you were sitting there looking at a little baby and you were like, okay, all you have to do is just think about it and your finger will bend, right? And you try and teach a child how to bend his finger like that, he's going to do it eventually, but he's going to be caught in the same mystery that you are. It's going to happen, but he's not going to have any idea how he did it. I just thought about it, and it just sort of did it. I don't know. Just who knows? It's like when you go into your dream at night and you walk into a ready-made world. How did I do that? God, that must have taken me a lot of time to do. But there it is, unfolding in real time before you, sunsets and planets and mountains and oceans and villains and people, all manner of things, right? All there for your night of entertainment while you soundly sleep, right? And in this, we just go forward, keeping our eyes on that which doesn't change. A love so perfect, it's never unstable. A man cannot realize God unless he renounces everything mentally. A sadhu cannot lay things up. Birds and wandering monks do not make provisions for the morrow. Such is the state of my mind, and I cannot carry even clay in my hand. Once, when Hriday tormented me, I thought of leaving this place and going to Benares. I thought of taking some clothes with me, but how could I take money? So I could not go to Benares. That's a joke. That's a monk's joke right there. Do you get it? It's like, oh, I don't have the faith. Guess I'm not going to Benares. Rather than, I don't have any faith, but I'm going to Benares. I'm going to work on it, have some trust and go forward. Right. So that's our attitude. That's why everybody laughed here. It's like, he was like, oh, well, don't have that faith. Guess I'm not going to Benares. Right. Can't renounce everything yet. To Mahima, he said, you're a householder. You should take hold of both this and that, both the world and God. Mahima, sir, one who holds to that. Can one who holds to that also hold to this? Can we have both, enjoyment and renunciation simultaneously? Well, of course you can, right? But not in your old state of mind. You have to first learn the joy of renunciation, right? You have to first learn that the things that you filled your life with are bondage, right? Are not going to help you at all on the last day of life. They're just going to torment you on the last day of life. And so we come to know that, right? And we come to understand that. And that's how we learn to let go. That's how we learn to trust. When we realize the oneness, then we realize the many things that we're holding don't need to be held. We just need to hold that one thing, that divine reality, our beloved. And he is all of the things that we have loved in the past, all the particulars that we loved. We find out they were all him. And so that discernment, that's how we get that longing, trying to see things as they are, right? Sir, can one who holds to that also hold to this? Master, once, sitting on the bank of the Ganges near the Panchavati, holding a rupee in one hand and clay in the other, I discerned or discriminated. The rupee is the clay is verily the rupee, and the rupee is verily the clay. And then I threw both the rupee and the clay into the water. But I was a little frightened. How foolish of me to offend the goddess of fortune, I thought. What shall I do if she doesn't provide me with food anymore? Then, like Hazra, I sought help in a ruse. I said to the goddess, Mother, may you dwell in my heart. Once the Divine Mother was pleased with the man's austerities and said to him, "You may ask a favor of me." "O mother," said he, "if you are so pleased with me, then grant that I may eat from a gold plate with my grandchildren." Now, in one boon, the man got everything: grandchildren, wealth, a gold plate, and a long life. Right? When the mind is freed from lust and greed, it can be directed to God and become absorbed in Him. It is the bound alone who can be freed. The moment the mind turns away from God, it is bound. When does the lower needle of a pair of scales come away from the upper one? When one pan is pressed down by the weight. Lust and greed is that weight, right? So this is all he's saying here. When you turn to your senses, right? The only way to turn away from God, it's not a matter of turning a direction as much. It's as much as turning to the body mind for your comforts, for your pleasures, for your enjoyments, for your accomplishments, right? Instead of turning toward the body mind, turn the other way, turn deep within, not toward the senses which are coming from outside, but from the very essence of being, which is coming from inside, right? That's where you find the deepest love. That's where you find the deepest peace. That's where you find anything that doesn't change, is deep within yourself. And so don't look elsewhere, right? Don't look elsewhere. Why does a child cry on coming out of its mother's womb? With its cry, it says, as it were, "Just see where I am now." In my mother's womb, I was meditating on the lotus feet of God. Oh, but see where I am now, right? To Mahima, you should renounce mentally. Live the life of a householder in a spirit of detachment. Mahima, can a man live in the world if his mind is once directed to God? Master, why not? Where will he go away from the world? I realize that wherever I live, I am always in the Ayodhya of Rama. This whole world is Rama's Ayodhya. After receiving instructions from his teacher, Rama said that he would renounce the world. Dasaratha sent the sage Vashishta to Rama to dissuade him. Vashishta found him filled with intense renunciation. He said to Rama, "First of all, reason with me, Rama. Then you may leave the world. May I ask you if this world is outside of God? If that is so, then you may give it up." Rama found that it is God alone who has become the universe and all of its living beings. Everything in the world appears real on the account of God's reality behind it. Thereupon Rama became silent. In the world, a man must fight against passions like lust and anger, against many desires, against attachment. It is convenient to fight from inside a fort, from his own house. At home, he gets his food and other help from his wife. In the Kali Yuga, the life of a man depends entirely on food. It is better to get food at one place than to knock at 7 doors for it. Living at home is like facing the battle from a fort, right? So he's saying householder life, monk life, doesn't matter. We have to realize God. He says, if you're a householder, you're fighting from the fort. You know, you've got your needs taken care of and arranged for, and your shelter and security, right? So you go and you manage all of those things and you go forward. For the monk, it's like you're not gonna have a fort. Yeah, you're not even gonna have a sword. You just go. Just go wander, right? Don't accept anything in this world. Don't transact with this world. Go directly inside. Live in the world like a cast-off leaf in the wind. Such a leaf is sometimes blown inside the house and sometimes to a rubbish heap. The leaf goes wherever the wind blows, sometimes to a good place and sometimes to a bad. Now, God has put you in the world. That is good. Stay here. Again, when he lifts you up from here and puts you in a better place, that will be time enough to think about what to do then. God has put you in the world. What can you do about it? Resign everything to him. Surrender yourself at his feet. Then there will be no more confusion. Then you will realize that it is God who does everything. All depends on the will of Rama. Right? So you see what he's saying there. It's like, accept what is. You're here in the world, right? Be discerning while you're here. Hold on to God. Hold on to love. Hold on to truth, right? And do your practices, but with patience accept being in the world and see that this world is God. That there's nothing different about it, right? That there is a place of enlightenment within you, within which you can stand and be untouched by the world and yet live in it, where you can stand and navigate this world and not suffer for it. There does exist a way of life, right? And that way of life is to be true to love, be true to wisdom, right? And do it through your being. Right? That's how we do it. No big bells or whistles, no accomplishments, no nothing. Just the simplicity of pure faith, living in God without any other concern. Then we go forward. A devotee, what is that story about the will of Rama? Master, oh, in a certain village there lived a weaver. He was a very pious person. Everyone trusted him. Everyone loved him. He used to sell his goods in the marketplace. When a customer asked him the price of a piece of cloth, the weaver would say, well, by the will of Rama, the price for the yard is 1 rupee, and the labor is 4 annas. By the will of Rama, the profit is 2 annas. The price of the cloth, by the will of Rama, is 1 rupee and 6 annas. Such was the people's faith in this weaver that the customer would at once pay the price and take the cloth. The weaver was a real devotee of God. After finishing his supper in the evening, he would spend long hours in the worship hall meditating on God and chanting his names and glories. Now, late one night, the weaver couldn't get to sleep. He was sitting in the worship hall, smoking now and then, when a band of robbers happened to pass that way. They wanted a man to carry their stolen goods, and said to the weaver, come with us. So saying, they led him off by the hand. After committing a robbery in a house, they put the load of things on the weaver's head, commanding him to carry them. Suddenly, the police arrived, and the robbers ran away. But the weaver, with his load, was arrested. He was kept in lockup for the night. The next day, he was brought before the magistrate for trial. The magistrate said, Your Honor, this man could never commit a robbery. Therefore, upon the magistrate asked the weaver to make his statement. The weaver said, Your Honor, by the will of Rama, I finished my meal at night. Then, by the will of Rama, I was sitting in the worship hall. It was quite late at night by the will of Rama, and by the will of Rama, I had been thinking of God and chanting his name and glories, when, by the will of Rama, a band of robbers passed that way. By the will of Rama, they dragged me with them. By the will of Rama, they committed a robbery in a house. And by the will of Rama, they put a load on my head. Just then, by the will of Rama, the police came. And by the will of Rama, I was arrested. Then, by the will of Rama, the police kept me in a lockup for the night. And this morning, by the will of Rama, I have been brought before your honor. The magistrate realized that the weaver was a pious man and ordered his release. On his way home, the weaver said to his friends, By the will of Rama, I have been released. Whether a man should be a householder or a monk depends on the will of Rama. Surrender everything to God and do your duties in the world. What else can you do? Right? A clerk was once sent to prison. After the prison term was over, he was released. Now, what do you think he did? He cut capers. Did he cut capers, or did he do his old clerical work? If the householder becomes a jivan mukta, right, living while still embodied, enlightened while still embodied, then he can easily live in the world if he likes. A man who has attained knowledge does not differentiate between this place and that place. All places are the same to him. He who thinks of that place also thinks of this place, right? So this is really very, very, very insightful little story here. Kind of really helps us to see. It's not about what choices. Well, I don't know that I can say that actually. It has very much to do with choices, but it has to do with a bigger framing where you're not uh, you're 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 always aware of the context within which you work, you know. And I think that's the point in this story where he's constantly saying, by the will of Rama, by the will of Rama, by the will of Rama, by the will of Rama. It might seem irritating, but I bet he doesn't ever forget that it's by the will of Rama. Right? It's like he lives in this world with that pure acceptance, right? We've learned from the Buddhists this idea of non-resistance. Don't push against anything that life brings to you, right? That causes suffering when you don't accept what comes. Instead, accept everything that comes. And the first step to accepting everything that comes is by saying, by the will of Rama, this has come, right? Because if you know if it came through your beloved, that it was a gift. Because your beloved has only love for you, only the deepest of loves for you, right? And so whatever comes your way from the will of Rama is good for you, is helpful to you, and is leading you toward your home, leading you toward your fulfillment, right? And so we face every moment of life with that statement, by the will of Rama, this is my life, this is what is, I accept it. I accept it, and I will hereby make gold out of anything I touch. I will apply Rama to anything I touch. Love, wisdom, and being are the ingredients of everything that comes out of my house, out of my effort, right? And so we live like that, in surrender, in a surrendered acceptance, knowing that we are in God, that we are in relationship with the divine beloved, that everything we taste is God. Everything we smell is God. Everything we see is God. Everything we touch and everything we taste is God. And if you can enjoy any one of those senses in a true understanding that it is God, you're free. You're free, right? And so it's not a matter of picking paths, being a householder or being a monk. It's a matter of being in the moment and recognize it as your divine beloved and acting accordingly, right? In a great patience with no quest for returns or results, but just a simple process of returning to the feet of the beloved at every moment, surrendered, content, needing nothing in ourselves. This is what Thakur is trying to teach us, trying to show us. When I first met Keshab at Jai Gopal's garden house, I remarked, he is the only one who has dropped his tail. The people laughed. Keshab said to them, don't laugh. There must be some meaning in his words. Let us ask him. Thereupon I said to Keshab, the tadpole, so long as it has not yet dropped its tail, lives only in the water. It cannot move about on the dry land. But as soon as it drops its tail, it hops up on the riverbank. Then it can live both on the land and in the water. Likewise, as long as a man has not dropped his tail of ignorance, he can live only in the water of the world. But when he drops his tail, that is to say, when he attains knowledge of God, then he can roam about as a free soul, or live as a householder if he likes. Mahimatran and the other devotees remained spellbound, listening to the master's words. Master, once I visited Devendranath Tagore with Mathur Babu. I said to Mathur, I have heard that Devendra Tagore thinks of God. I should like to see him. All right, said Mathur. I'll take you to him. We were fellow students in the Hindu college, and I am very friendly with him. We went to Devendra's house. Mathur and Devendra had not seen each other for a long time. Devendra said to Mathur, you have changed a little. You have grown fat around the stomach. Mathur said, referring to me. He has come to see you. He is always mad about God. I wanted to see Devendra's physical marks and said to him, let me see your body. He pulled up his shirt, and I found that he had very fair skin, tinted red. His hair had not yet turned gray. At the outset, I noticed a little vanity in Devendra. And isn't that natural? He had such wealth, such scholarship, such name and fame. Noticing that streak of vanity, I asked Mathur, well, is vanity the outcome of knowledge or of ignorance? Can a knower of Brahman have such a feeling as I am a scholar, or I am a Gyani, or I am rich? While I was talking to Devendra, I suddenly got into that state of mind in which I can see a man as he really is. I was convulsed with laughter inside. In that state, I regard scholars and book learned as mere straw. If I see that a scholar has no discrimination and renunciation, I regard him only as worthless straw. I see that he is like a vulture which soars high in the sky, but fixes its eyes on the charnel pit down below. I found that Devendra had combined both yoga and boga. That's yoga, boga is enjoyment. So he had combined both yoga and boga in his life. He had a number of children, all young. The family physician was there. Thus, you see, though he was a Gyani, yet he was preoccupied with worldly life. I said to him, you are the King Janaka of this Kali Yuga. Holding to one as well as the other, you drank his milk from a cup brimming. He drank his milk from a brimming cup. I have heard that you live in the world and think of God, and so I have come to see you. Please tell me something about God. He recited some texts from the Vedas. He said, the universe is like a chandelier, and each living being is a light in it. Once, meditating on the Panchavati, I too had a vision like that. I found his words agreed with my vision, and I thought he must be a very great man. I asked him to explain his words. He said, God has created men to manifest his own glory. Otherwise, who could know this universe? Everything becomes dark without the lights in the chandelier. One cannot even see the chandelier itself. We talked a long time. Devendra was pleased and said to me, you must now come to one of our Brahmo Samaj festivals. That, I said, depends on the will of God. You can see my state of mind. There's no knowing when God will put me in a particular state. Devendra insisted, no, you must come. But put on your cloth and wear a shawl over your body. Someone might say that something unkind about your untidiness, and that would hurt me. No, I replied, I cannot promise that. I cannot be a Babu. Devendra and Mathur laughed. The very next day, Mathur received a letter from Devendra forbidding me to go to the festival. He wrote that it would be ungentlemanly of me not to cover my body with a shawl, right? Because Ramakrishna couldn't promise those things, right? Because he would become completely unaware of his body and mind when he would go into samadhi. And there's lots of descriptions of times when he was just in such an ecstatic state that his dhoti fell off, came untied, and he just went around naked, not even noticing, not caring at all, teaching. And so, I'm sure that when Devendra heard that, he's like, oh my God, no, he can't come to my church. What if he comes to my church and he drops his dhoti and he's naked in church? Oh my God, no, we can't have that. Tell him not to come. Tell him not to come. Right? Like that. So you see, if we make these kinds of judgments about our little visions of what things are and how they are, we can miss some really beautiful things, right? We might forget to invite Thakur to our party. So just a lot of rich material today, a lot of fun and beautiful stuff in there. So we're going to turn off the recorder here.